So you had a fantastic 6 years as a player. You experienced the highs and the lows. You saw every side of the game, no doubt. You left the club in 1968, but you came back to the club in the mid-1980s. Now, by that time, you'd already started your management career. You'd had a successful time at Nuneaton. And when you came back to the Cobblers, it'd been a difficult few years for the club, hadn't it? Tony Barton had suffered ill health and the team had struggled. And what sort of situation did you find when you came back to the club in 1985?
Well, I was desperate out of the job. I was getting better paid at Nuneaton than what I was at and what it was when what they offered me here. But I was desperate to have the job, Gareth. You know, I'd had a bit of experience. I'd managed Weymouth. I was manager of Weymouth when I was 30, and then I went to Dartford and then to Nuneaton. But the club, well, when I went for, there's a local newspaper, Brian Barron, said to me about months before Tony Barton got the job, why didn't I apply for the job? And I thought, I'm not experienced, so I don't think I'll get no chance of getting the job. He says, go and put a request in. So I went down to County Ground and I stuck the letter through the door anyway. I got a nice letter back from the board, and Dave Bowen had given it to Tony Barton, which he just won the European Cup, you know, so I wasn't sort of surprised that he got the job. And then, unfortunately for Tony, you know, he had that heart attack, and I got called down to the County Ground. And when I went in, all the directors I knew from most of them had been there when I was a player, and Derek Banks was in there. And this is when they offered me the job. This was about 4 or 5 matches from the end of the season. But I knew what I'd seen in the non-league, Gareth, you know, so and I'd watched the Cobblers quite a bit, so I knew in my own mind that I could improve this. I didn't know how much I could improve it, but I can improve it with the better players, you know.
It was a re-election in those days, of course, and as you say, you came in the last few weeks of the 84-85 season, and you did improve results. You sort of gave the side a stronger finish even in those last few weeks, and then things began to change. That must have given you a bit of a launch pad and some momentum to take into your first full season, when you managed to, or you began to add 1 or 2 players from your non-league knowledge.
Yeah, well, it was important that I wanted to sign Trevor Morley, and I wanted to sign Richard Hill, who really hadn't played that many games at Nuneaton, but he had a lot of potential. And then, you know, Phil Chard, I'd seen Phil Chard play so I was looking for a bit of character as well, you know, and a good mixture if I could. I signed Paul Curtis. I'd seen Mark Schiavi play, you know, and I tried to get Warren Donald to sign it first. He'd been on loan the previous season, but he didn't want to come then. But I later got him to come. So I was gradually putting the side together. Keith McPherson came. I saw Keith play for Scunthorpe on loan for West Ham, so I wanted to sign him, and he came. So it was like a bit of a jigsaw, but putting things together. Benji had been there, Peter Gleesh had been there, and they'd been quite steady. I've seen them play quite well for the club, and that season prior to me coming in.
Your first full season, definite signs of progress and improvement, and after struggling for a few years before, I think it was an 8th place finish in 85-86. So those players you've just mentioned there clearly hit the ground running, and again gave you a platform to which to take into what everyone will remember as that fantastic 86-87 season. Yeah.
I signed Eddie McGoldrick for the start. I'd planned to get Eddie in because I wanted him to have another year at Nuneaton. I signed him from Kettering to Nuneaton, and I promised him that I would take him to Northampton, but I just wanted him to stay there for the, you know, when you bring a lot of non-league players in, people start moaning about it. And I signed David Gilbert. It was a non-contract player at Boston United. Russ Wilcox had got in the England non-league side. I wanted to sign Russ, you know, so that was gradually. Graham Reid had come the previous year. I'd seen him play for Frickley Colliery Welfare. So You know, I knew all these players, so that's the one thing about being a manager in the league. If you've got a chance of signing some players, you get first-hand knowledge how they play against you and what sort of characters they are.